The loading dock was dark, but the streetlight caught the glint of metal. Dorothy pulled a battered leather jacket from the trash, and 2 dog tags slid into her palm. Lopez, R. The name was stamped into stainless steel. She turned them over in her gloved hand, feeling the weight of something she couldn't name yet.
Lopez, R. That's a soldier. Why are his tags in the garbage?
Her break wasn't for another hour, but she sat down at the break room table and typed the name into her phone. The Department of Defense database listed Lopez, R. as missing in action since 2004, Iraq.
22 years missing. His family never got him home.
She held the tags up to the break room light. Dirt in the lettering. They'd been somewhere. They'd been kept. The jacket had been thrown out by someone on the 14th floor. A defense contractor. Dorothy had emptied their trash 100 times. But this time, the trash pushed back. By the time her shift ended, she'd already pulled up a veterans registry. There was a widow. Linda Lopez, contact information. Dorothy saved the number.
She doesn't know yet, but I am going to tell her.
The next night, Dorothy pushed her mop down the 14th floor corridor. Suits and heels stepped around her, never making eye contact. A man in an expensive coat sidestepped her cart without a glance. She was invisible, the way maintenance always was.
They don't see me. They never do. But I see things they threw away.
At dawn, she walked out into the Chicago cold. The skyline glowed pink and orange, but her mind was on the number saved in her phone. At home, she opened the Veterans Registry again. The entry for Lopez, R. was open, the words missing in action still glowing on the screen. The file listed his unit, date of loss, and a wife's name, Linda. The words seemed to stare back at her.
22 years she's been waiting and not knowing.
She picked up her phone. The contact was already entered. Linda Lopez. Her thumb hovered over the call button.
If it were my husband, I'd want someone to look twice. I'd want someone to call.
She pressed call. The line clicked, and somewhere in Texas, a phone began to ring. The voice that answered was quiet, cautious, a woman who had learned long ago that late-night calls rarely brought good news.
Hello? Who is this? My name is Dorothy. I am a cleaner in Chicago. I found something that might belong to you. Some dog tags with your husband's name on them.
Dog tags? That's impossible. Ricky's been missing 22 years.
Dorothy heard the hope and disbelief fighting in the woman's voice. She spoke carefully, not wanting to promise too much.
I have them in my hand right now. They say Lopez. I looked him up online. I thought you'd want to know.
Ricky. He was driving a convoy in Anbar province. One moment he was there, the next nothing. They never found him.
The story came out in broken pieces. A roadside, a flash, a long silence. 22 years of not knowing.
I can send you a photo. But if you want to see them in person, could you come to Chicago?
I'll be on the first flight tomorrow. Don't let them go, please.
Linda's flight touched down early. Dorothy met her at the arrivals gate, and they drove to a small coffee shop near the office. They sat across a small table. 2 strangers bound by a name on a piece of metal.
Thank you for coming, Linda. I wasn't sure you'd believe me.
I had to see them. 22 years, and someone finally looked.
Dorothy reached into her pocket and placed the dog tags on the table between them.
Oh, Ricky. That's his handwriting. They let him stamp his own tags.
She traced the letters with her finger, and the story of the ambush came out in a flood.
The convoy hit an IED. They never recovered anyone. After a few years, they closed the case.
The jacket these were in came from a defense firm on the 14th floor. I cleaned their offices.
Linda's eyes hardened. They left the coffee shop and walked toward the office tower, the dog tags a cold weight in Dorothy's pocket. They entered the gleaming lobby of the office tower, the receptionist eyeing Dorothy's worn jacket but saying nothing. The elevator opened onto the 14th floor, and a nameplate on the polished door read Marcus Grayson, senior partner.
Mr. Grayson, my name is Dorothy. I clean this floor. I found something in the trash that we need to ask you about.
I don't know what you are talking about. I am very busy.
Dorothy pulled the dog tags from her pocket and held them out. Grayson's eyes flickered, and the color drained from his face for just a second.
Where did you get those?
They were in a leather jacket your office threw out. My husband's name is on them. He's been missing for 22 years.
Grayson stood and turned to the window, hiding his face. When he spoke, his voice was too controlled.
That jacket was in storage for years. It was just clutter. I have no idea how those tags got there.
Linda's hands shook at her sides. They left without another word, but both women knew the man was hiding something. 20 minutes later, Grayson stepped out of his office and found them waiting by the elevators. His face hardened.
I told you, I don't know anything. Leave this floor before I call security.
We're not leaving until you tell us how your firm got his tags. Look at his wife. She's waited 22 years.
You are a cleaner. I can have your contract terminated by tomorrow morning.
Linda stepped between them, her voice raw. She wasn't going to let another suit bury her husband.
Fire her if you want. But I will stand in this lobby every single day until someone tells me the truth.
Grayson grabbed the dog tags from Dorothy's hand and stared at them. For a moment, his mask slipped.
You have no idea what you are getting into. This isn't just some lost item.
Then tell us. We already know it's bad.
Grayson's hand trembled. He looked at Linda, then back at the tags. He was cornered, and he knew it.
The tags were recovered in 2004, Anbar Province. It was an off-the-books operation.
In the silence, a flash of memory. A roadside, a burned vehicle, a man's jacket lying in the dust.
We found his body, but we couldn't report it. The mission wasn't authorized, so we archived the evidence.
You had his body for 22 years?
I didn't know what to do. It was above my pay grade. They said to bury it, so I did.
The archive room was filled with boxes. Other secrets, other lives. The jacket had sat in one until a week ago.
Why throw it out now?
Storage clean-out. I thought enough time had passed. I didn't think anyone would look.
So he's buried in an unmarked grave? Somewhere in Iraq?
Grayson didn't answer. Linda turned away, her face crumbling. The truth was finally out, but it offered no peace. Grayson reached into his suit and pulled out a checkbook. His hand was steady now, the way a businessman's hand is steady when closing a deal.
I can make this go away. Money, enough for you both. Just walk away and forget you ever saw those tags.
You think I want your money? I want my husband's name. I want a grave I can visit.
You can't buy our silence. We're taking this to the press.
You'll regret this. The firm has lawyers, connections. You are a cleaning lady with no proof that will hold up.
I've waited 22 years. I can wait a little longer for justice.
They turned and walked out, Grayson's voice trailing after them.
You'll never work in this city again, Dorothy. Think about your future.
Let him threaten. I've been invisible long enough.
We're going to make sure he's remembered. He won't be a secret anymore.
The next morning, Linda called a reporter who owed her a favor. By evening, the story was everywhere.
My husband's name is Ricky Lopez. He's been missing since 2004. I just found out the truth.
The national news picked it up. A broadcast showed his photo and the dog tags. Public outrage forced the military to act. They announced the case would be reopened. In a small office at the Pentagon, an investigator began pulling records from 2004. Forensic teams were sent to the Iraqi desert, searching the coordinates Grayson had disclosed. But Grayson's firm responded with a cease and desist, demanding a retraction and threatening legal action.
They can threaten all they want. My husband's blood is on that desert sand.
We've come this far, Linda. We're not turning back now.
The search in Anbar Province was underway. After 22 years, someone was finally looking. Grayson's firm struck back. They sent a letter to the cleaning company, demanding her dismissal for trespassing. The same man who threw out a soldier's jacket was now trying to throw her life away. When Dorothy arrived for her shift, Her supervisor handed her a termination notice. She was being fired for doing the right thing.
So, this is the price of looking twice.
She cleaned out her locker, her movements slow and deliberate. She wouldn't give them the satisfaction of tears.
Dorothy, I heard. I am so sorry.
Don't be sorry. This just proves we're onto something big.
The jacket was gone, but the truth it carried had already infected the whole system. Grayson might have thought he'd silenced her, but all he did was make sure she'd never stop. She walked out of the building with her head high. The invisible woman was now the most dangerous person in the city. In a laboratory in Qatar, a forensic technician watched a DNA match appear on the screen. After 2 decades, Ricardo Lopez had finally been found. The phone rang in Linda's hotel room. The voice on the other end was clipped and official. She sank onto the bed, the receiver shaking against her ear. The words accounted for hit her like a physical blow.
They found him. After all this time, they brought my Ricky home.
I am here, Linda. You are going to get through this.
The evening news led with the story. Missing in action since 2004, identified and coming home. Grayson sat alone in his dark office, watching the broadcast. His phone buzzed, his lawyer.
This can't be happening. They can't prove anything without me.
The subpoena landed on his desk the next morning. The firm was being investigated. His signature was on the archive order. On a military transport plane, a flag-draped coffin was loaded. After 22 years, Ricardo Lopez was coming back to American soil. Grayson's attorney arranged a meeting. The offer was simple, a lump sum enough to erase debt in exchange for a binding confidentiality agreement.
You want him buried with honors? This check can secure your future. Sign it, and we make this whole mess go away.
Linda stared at the number. It was more than she'd earned in a lifetime. For a long moment, she was silent.
I could pay off my house. I could finally breathe. But if I take this, I am selling his memory.
You are not selling anything. You are choosing. But remember, Ricky can't spend that money. Only you can.
Dorothy's words hung in the air. Linda looked at the dog tags on the table, then at the check, and her hand shook.
Number. He deserves a funeral with an honor guard, not a payoff. I want my husband in a cemetery, not a bank account.
You are making a mistake. This firm will bury you in legal fees before you see a single soldier's salute.
Linda stood, her hand shaking but her voice steady. Dorothy rose beside her, her own resolve solidifying.
We'll see him honored, whatever it takes.
Linda gave a press conference, holding the dog tags up to the cameras. Her voice raw, she demanded the military release her husband's remains for a proper funeral.
My husband died serving this country. He deserves to be buried with a flag on his coffin, not hidden in a contractor's archive.
The story exploded. National news channels ran the footage. Public opinion turned against Grayson's firm overnight. Grayson found himself summoned before a congressional committee. His firm's contracts were under review. The pressure was unbearable.
We'll release the remains. Just make this go away.
The military announced a date, San Antonio National Cemetery. Full honors. Linda would bring him home. Linda called Dorothy to give her the news. Her voice broke, but this time with relief.
Dorothy, it's happening. They're giving him a funeral. I want you there. You are the reason any of this is happening.
I'll be there, Linda. I wouldn't miss it.
Dorothy packed a small bag. The dog tags, still slightly dented from the dumpster, rested on her dresser alongside a newly purchased airline ticket. The next morning, a final settlement arrived. Linda read the terms, her hand gripping the pen. A gag order, a payout, but she could write in a condition. She scribbled a line at the bottom. Dorothy Freeman will be present at the funeral and may speak. The lawyer frowned, but said nothing.
Dorothy, it's done. I signed. They're releasing Ricky, but I made sure you are allowed to be there and say a few words.
You didn't have to do that, Linda. I am just glad he's coming home.
There's a settlement, enough to live on. But we can't talk about the firm. I don't care. They can keep their secrets. Ricky's name will be on a headstone.
That afternoon, Dorothy boarded a plane for San Antonio. The dog tags were in her jacket pocket, a familiar weight against her ribs. Linda met her at the arrival's gate. They embraced briefly, but words were few. Both were carrying 22 years. San Antonio National Cemetery stretched out before them, rows of white headstones gleaming in the Texas sun. A small tent marked the site. An honor guard rehearsed nearby, their uniforms crisp, movements synchronized. The sound of a rifle salute was still an hour away. Dorothy squeezed Linda's hand. The ceremony would start soon. After all the years, Ricardo Lopez was about to be an addressed mystery no more. Dorothy stepped away from the small crowd, pulling the dog tags from her pocket. She traced the dented letters one last time.
I lost my job, my routine, the invisibility I counted on. But he lost everything.
Linda approached, seeing the tension in Dorothy's shoulders. She placed a hand on her arm.
You okay, Dorothy? You've been quiet.
Just thinking. When I pulled these out of the trash, I had no idea it would lead here.
Neither did I. But you didn't stop. You looked twice. That's why we're here.
They stood in silence, the weight of the moment pressing down.
I never thought I'd be at a military funeral. Not for a man I never met.
You met him the moment you held those tags. He's been with us ever since.
The chaplain raised a hand and the murmur of voices quieted. It was time. The honor guard's boots struck the pavement. A single sharp echo that silenced the last whispers. 6 soldiers carried the flag-draped coffin forward, their movements a language of reverence, older than the stones beneath them. The chaplain's voice carried over the still crowd. He spoke of sacrifice, of a son finally brought home after 22 years of silence. The honor guard began folding the flag. Each crease was a deliberate act of mourning, turning a soldier's covering into a husband's keepsake. Linda stood at the front, her hands clasped so tightly the knuckles whitened. Her tears fell without sound, her gaze never leaving the casket. An officer knelt before her, offering the sacred triangle. His words were formal, ancient, but they held the weight of a nation's regret. Linda's hands closed around the flag, and she pressed it against her heart. For a moment, the world contracted to just her and the fabric. Chaplain nodded toward the podium. Linda rose, the flag still clutched to her chest, and began the short walk that felt like miles. She reached the microphone. The small wooden stand seemed too fragile for the enormity of what she carried. The crowd held its breath. Every eye was on her.
For 22 years, I've waited. Waited for a knock on the door, a letter, anything that would tell me where my husband was. Then, out of nowhere, a cleaning woman in Chicago pulled a jacket out of the trash and found the one thing I'd been praying for. Dorothy, would you please stand? I want everyone here to know who brought my husband home.
Dorothy's breath caught. She rose on unsteady legs, the dog tags suddenly heavy in her pocket. A path opened in front of her, and she walked toward the podium.
This is Dorothy Freeman. She's the only person who looked twice. She's the reason Ricky is no longer a name in a missing persons file.
Linda stepped away from the microphone and wrapped her arms around Dorothy. The embrace was fierce and silent. 22 years of grief pouring out.
Thank you for not looking away. Thank you for seeing what others threw out.
Dorothy couldn't speak. She just nodded, holding the other woman up, while the crowd rose to their feet. For the first time in her life, Dorothy Freeman was seen, and the whole country saw her too. After the last mourners had gone, Linda pressed a thick envelope into Dorothy's hands. The weight of it was strange, heavier than the dog tags had been. Inside was a check, enough to change a life, her portion of the confidential settlement.
After everything, this is what it comes down to. But I didn't do it for money. I can't just pocket this. Something bad came from a dumpster. I want something good to come from one too.
Then, do it. Ricky would have wanted someone to look for the others nobody sees.
Within a month, Dorothy had filed papers for a small nonprofit. Its mission searched dumpsters near veterans' facilities for discarded effects. She called it the Lost Veterans Effects Project. The phone number was her own. She started with the same building where she'd found the jacket. The first sweep took an hour and turned up a faded photograph. Then a medal, tarnished but intact. Then a discharge paper. The items were small, but they told stories. She looked at the photograph, a young soldier with a child, and knew this was only the beginning. 2 years passed. Dorothy's hands grew calloused from dumpster lids, her eyes sharp for anything with a name, a date, a story. One afternoon, behind a VA clinic in Gary, Indiana, her glove touched something cold, a bronze star, tarnished but still in its case.
There's a name engraved on the back. Someone earned this.
The veteran was long deceased, but the records led her to his daughter. Dorothy made the call and arranged a meeting. At a small diner in Cincinnati, Dorothy placed the medal into a woman's trembling hands.
Your father's service mattered. This belongs with you.
The woman pressed the medal to her heart and cried. For a long moment, no words were needed. By the end of the second year, the Lost Veterans Effects Project had recovered 31 missing items.
Every one of these is someone's Lopez. Every single one deserves to be found.
The original dog tags hung from Dorothy's rearview mirror, a constant reminder that even the invisible can see what others miss. She took the dog tags from the rearview mirror and held them in her palm. The metal was warm from the sun, familiar as her own heartbeat.
I used to think being invisible was a curse. Now I know it's the only way to see what others can't.
That morning, a letter had arrived from Oklahoma. A family had found her project and wanted to thank her for returning their grandfather's discharge papers.
It's not about me. It never was.
She put on her jacket and walked to the loading dock where it had all started. The same dumpster, the same streetlight, but nothing felt the same. She didn't search. She just stood there, feeling the weight of the tags and the lightness that had come with them.
Thank you, Ricky, for teaching me that looking twice is the most important job there is.
She slipped the tags into her pocket, next to her own cleaning badge. The 2 pieces of metal had become one story. She walked back toward the building, her cart waiting in the corridor. She had floors to clean, and she wouldn't have it any other way. The invisible woman who had once only been seen by a dumpster now saw everyone. And they saw her. Dawn broke over the Chicago alley. Dorothy was already there, a plastic bag in one hand, a flashlight in the other. Her glove brushed against a small, worn box, a pair of reading glasses, a rosary, a folded letter. Someone's life thrown away.
Another name, another family that doesn't know yet.
She tucked the box into her bag and stood for a moment, watching the sky shift from gray to gold. The city was waking up around her, but she was already deep in the work that everyone else overlooked.
Every time I reach into a dumpster, I am reaching into a story. Someone's son, someone's father.
She passed a coffee shop, the same one where she had met Linda, and kept walking. The work never ended, but neither did the hope. She had found 31 items in 2 years, a number that meant 31 families had answers. 31 stories had endings.
Ricky's story ended at San Antonio, but there are so many more.
She disappeared into the morning crowd, just another face in the city. But she was the one who looked twice, and the world was better for it. In the quiet of her apartment, the dog tags rested on the table. A small wooden box opened beside them. She folded the letters from the families she had helped, each one holding a piece of someone's heart. She picked up the tags one last time, tracing the dented letters that had started it all. 22 years of silence, broken by a single glance into a dumpster. A new letter had come from Linda. We planted flowers on Ricky's grave. The kids laid a wreath. Dorothy smiled. The woman who had once been invisible was now woven into countless stories of loss and healing. She placed the tags back into the box and closed the lid. They would stay there, a reminder of the first name. Then she put on her jacket, grabbed her bag, and headed out into the evening. The night shift was starting. Outside, the city lights flickered on. Somewhere, a dumpster held another story waiting to be found. And somewhere, Dorothy Freeman was on her way to find it.